You think you can live here? Not in my neighborhood. The words spat out like venom, moments before flames lit the night sky. A black man's home, reduced to ashes by the very person who claimed to protect the community. But 1 week later, in a silent courtroom, that same HOA Karen walked through the doors. And she didn't know the trap waiting for her. The fire was visible for miles. Sirens wailed, neighbors gathered, but nothing could save the small house as it collapsed. Into itself, flames devouring wood, memories, and dignity. Marcus Johnson stood barefoot in the street, smoke stinging his eyes, clutching the one thing he'd managed to save, a framed photo of his late parents. The cause was no mystery. For months, Marcus had been harassed by the HOA president, a woman everyone whispered about, calling her Karen. She sent letters about his grass being too long, fines for his porch light, even threats about the way his guests parked. But beneath the rules, her venom was obvious. She didn't want him there. And when the house burned, whispers turned to silence. No one confronted her. Neighbors looked away. Some muttered pity for Marcus, but most stayed quiet. Marcus, however, stayed calm. Even as he sifted through ashes with gloved hands, even as Karen strutted past him the next morning with a smirk, he did not shout. He did not fight. He simply watched. What Karen didn't know was that Marcus was not a lone dot by day. He worked as an electrician. By night, he studied law. His dream had always been to follow in his father's footsteps, a man who had once fought for justice in their small town. Though tragedy had derailed that path, Marcus never let go of his knowledge. He understood the system better than most lawyers, and when the fire consumed his house, Marcus knew this battle would not be fought in the street. It would be fought in the courtroom. The investigation began quickly. Fire marshals ruled arson. Security cameras from a nearby store captured a car pulling away from Marcus's street minutes before the flames. And the license plate? It belonged to Karen. Neighbors gasped when the news broke, but Karen was undeterred. She hired expensive lawyers, filed countersuits, and paraded through the neighborhood as though untouchable. They'll never convict. M.E., she bragged. But then came the week of the trial. Marcus walked into the courthouse, not as a victim, but as a man prepared. He wore a simple suit, carried his case files, and sat quietly as Karen strutted in with her lawyers. The room buzzed with whispers. The woman who once tormented her community was now forced to face the very man she tried to destroy. The trial was brutal. Karen's lawyers tried to dismiss the evidence, claiming coincidences, attacking Marcus's character, twisting his quiet dignity into weakness. They called him combative, non-compliant with HOA standards, even a troublemaker, but Marcus stayed silent. He didn't need to defend himself. The truth would do it for him, and then came the moment that broke the case wide open. Marcus's attorney, a young woman he had mentored years earlier in community programs, played the security footage. The jury watched as a car pulled away from Marcus's street just before the fire erupted. Then Marcus produced a second piece of evidence, HOA meeting minutes signed by Karen herself, where she had said, "We need to do whatever it takes to get him out." The room froze. Karen's face went pale. The trap had closed. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts: arson, property destruction, hate-driven intimidation. As the judge delivered the sentence, Marcus finally spoke. His voice was calm, steady, the same voice he used the night his home turned to ashes. You can burn a house, but you cannot burn justice. You cannot burn dignity. And you cannot burn the truth. The courtroom erupted. Reporters scribbled furiously, cameras flashed, and Karen was led away in handcuffs, her head bowed. Her reign over the neighborhood ended in disgrace. Marcus walked out of the courthouse not as a victim, but as a victor. Neighbors who once stayed silent now applauded him. Some hung their heads in shame for not standing by him earlier. But Marcus didn't need their approval. He had stood for himself and for the truth, and weeks later, when community members rallied together to rebuild his home, Marcus stood once more on that street. The fire had taken his house, but his trap, patience, silence, and unshakable faith in justice had built him something even greater: respect, legacy, and a victory that would echo for years. This story reminds us that hatred can burn buildings, but it cannot destroy dignity. Marcus's silence was not weakness, it was strength. His patience was not surrender, it was strategy. And when justice came, it was undeniable. Wherever you are watching from, share your thoughts below. Have you ever seen someone underestimated rise above injustice? Drop your story in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more cinematic tales of hidden heroes and justice served.